Good evening. So this type of evening, this type of monthly evening is always wholly dedicated to the depth of meditation, the secret of our consciousness, it does not aspire to give us answers, but actually worse. It is all about freeing us from all the known answers, bringing us face to face with the mystery of existence. But anyway, it is not exactly answer that we are seeking. At least not in the intellectual sense. It is a sense of connectedness, of feeling one with the heartbeat of the universe, feeling inseparable. That's what our heart longs, and this is what perhaps this type of evening can respond to. And this evening I'm going to dedicate specifically to what is to me one of the most powerful ways to get in touch with that mystery and free ourselves from the mind as we know it, and enter a part of the mind that we don't know yet. Usually we don't know. It is partly because from tomorrow we are officially opening here a room that is dedicated to this method. But of course, this is not just a method. And what I'm going to talk about tonight is the real meaning of darkness. I'm going to enter as deeply as possible into this phenomena. What it means to us, not just as nighttime, not having light, although even in that sense, we pretty much have lost this experience of complete darkness, or natural darkness, which is lighted very gently. We disturb darkness with so much artificial light. And usually when we go to sleep, there's always some light sneaking in, making it incomplete. But of course, we are not just talking about this phenomena. Although making sure that you do enter a completely dark room when you go to sleep is extremely helpful in terms of the depth of sleep. What I want to explore with you is darkness as an aspect of our being, an aspect of our life, an aspect of our consciousness, then the way it heals, liberates, and brings us to inner completion. And I hope to explain why I consider that as probably the most powerful form of meditation, the most direct one, and actually the easiest one also. So tonight I'm going to be a salesman of darkness. Every night I'm becoming a salesman of a certain aspect of our being, tempting us to activate that part. But before we are going to talk at all, let us briefly meditate on this principle. So perhaps even before we close our eyes, let's just take a look around us. Notice the obvious experience of what it means to be aware of the world. It is particularly useful because I'm flooded with light, as you can see. And so it's very luminous. And then, what is the first step that takes place in meditation? Something that we take for granted. We close our eyes, right? So let us be aware of that moment, because it's not an obvious matter. We look at everything around us, and then we close our eyes. And as soon as we close our eyes, that is basically the most obvious instruction of almost any type of basic meditation that tells us, go inside, go within. The meaning is that at the very moment when we close our eyes, we move away from the world of objects into the world of consciousness. But when we close our eyes, we realize that there is one immediate implication, which is moving from light, the visible world is washed with light, into darkness. Going within immediately implies darkness. And being inside ourselves implies entering the darkness of our being. Feel how the deeper you go inside yourself, the deeper you enter the darkness. You know that as soon as you will open your eyes, the world will immediately appear, again washed with light. But when you choose to enter meditation, the first thing you need to do is to make yourself at home in that darkness. Letting go of the attachment to the visible world, and agreeing to rest in this inner mystery, like a dark room, how deeply can you go into that inner darkness? So now you are going to open your eyes. Please do that softly and feel how with the light of your consciousness, your awareness, suddenly the entire world appears. So that's the most basic thing that happens in meditation. We close our eyes. What do we see inside? Perhaps sometimes we see some, I don't know, visions, or some people speak of the light within. Maybe in a justified way, we'll meet that point later on. But generally, what happens, the most basic, grounded, ongoing experience when we close our eyes is that we see nothing. And what we call that we seeing nothing is basically darkness. And darkness does not have a good reputation. Especially not in spirituality. Think of all our mythologies, that they speak of the light against the dark forces. When we say that we send someone blessings, we say light and love to you. We never say may the darkness encompass you forever and ever. That sounds a bit cruel, right? We always say there is a light at the end of the tunnel, at the dark tunnel, right? And that even if we are at dark times, we're steeped in darkness. Darkness means that you're stuck somewhere, that you're in a hopeless state. And then we encourage the person, there is light somewhere at the end of the tunnel. Believe, trust, and then you will see the light. So light is the good guy, darkness is the bad guy. Who knows why it is so? Maybe it is because we are instinctually afraid of darkness. As long as you are with your eyes open, you are in control. You see, and if there is light around, the light of day, you see where you are, you see if there are predators, if some danger expects you, but who knows what might come out when you're out of control. You cannot see. There is pitch darkness. You cannot anticipate any danger. Everything, all the beasts and dangers of the world await in the darkness, right? We have it. It's in our horror movies. Everything, whenever there is an anticipated horror in a horror film, I don't see much, but from what I've seen, you walk in somewhere that you lose control. You cannot see what's going on, and then something jumps at you. You feel safer when there is light around. And this is even connected to our unconscious, right? When we think of, we are afraid of ourselves, of what is inside of us. We call it a dark abyss that is inside of us, or who knows what waits for me in the darkness of my being. Do you follow? It's this feeling of demons and evil. It's because in the darkness we have no control, and at the very instinctual level, we don't know what's going on. Our brain cannot function as well. So this is why we don't like so much darkness. Perhaps it's just a theory that I'm making up as I speak. But what I want to do this evening is to encourage you to make friends with darkness and to try it for yourself. To change our concept of darkness and to understand that it is actually perhaps the strongest representation, the strongest expression in our life of truth, reality, meditation, and our true being. Because people say, yes, we are light. Our true nature is light. That is not deep enough. It is true to a certain degree, but there is deeper than that. And I will explain. First of all, we need to understand that in terms of our subtle anatomy, in terms of our inner being, we are divided into two halves, the right half and the left half. In Hindu terms, this is basically my origin and inspiration. In Hindu terms, it is called the Pingala. The Pingala is the right side. It is connected to one of the three most important nadis, or subtle nerve columns, that determine our psychology, that determine our spiritual process, and even balances and imbalances in our personality. So one of the three is called Ida. Ida supposedly opposes Pingala. Ida is our left side. It's half of our being. And it is connected with what we call our passive side, with the moon, with nighttime. Right now, this meeting is obviously a meeting of Ida. This is where this energy dominates. It is also connected to our deepest feelings, our subconscious, remember, darkness, subconscious, with our emotions, with loss of control, with acceptance, surrender, silence. And our right side is called Pingala. Pingala is connected to obviously to the sun, to our outgoing activities, to determination and overcoming and power and action, involvement. Now this left part, the part of the Ida, is connected with darkness. It is that which is hidden within ourselves, that which is unknown. We discover it and awaken it in meditation. It represents basically our complementary half. Half of our being is darkness, is night. Half of life is night. But still, what happens is that we are very much attached to light, to objects. This is why we are instructed to close our eyes. Closing our eyes is a statement in meditation. It means we are saying for some time, I'm not a part of this world of objects, this world of light. I'm going to return to it. Yes, of course. If I'm not using the darkness as an escape, because there can be also fear of light, you see, fear of life, fear of engagement. But that is another satsang, another evening. So when I enter meditation, it is a statement that I'm going to not be a part of this world of light and objects. I'm going to turn off even the light of my consciousness that makes the whole world visible. So in meditation, I'm giving up my attachment to the world of light, to life. And life and light are completely connected, obviously. Darkness is nothing. It's like it's emptiness. It's like the absence of light and of life. We'll get back to it soon, because even that is not true. But for now, light and life are always connected. When we feel life, it is always connected with lighted visions of life, with sun, with the lighted world. When we wake up in the morning, we wake up to the world of light. Everything is washed with light. Everything becomes visible. Hopefully, I know that we are here in a place that it is less explicit, perhaps, than in other places. We don't enjoy as much sun, but still we share the fact that life is enabled by light. But if we only leave this one half, that of Pingala, we basically are cut off. We don't leave an entire half of our being, which is darkness. Then, of course, we become very attached to life. To objects, to what we see. We give a lot of meaning to the world, but in a completely disproportionate way. We need our Ida to be activated. We need the darkness, and actually we need the darkness as the ground of our being, where we come from. And this is, as we said in the meditation, this is very easily represented physically when we close our eyes. We immediately connect to darkness. Now try once, as much as possible. I know that it is quite challenging. It is the easiest to do during nighttime when you are less challenged. We have actually worked a lot to create here a perfectly dark room. It took us months to be able to prevent any kind of source of light. But try once to take a room and to darken it completely, as much as possible, and sit in it. The most important thing is that when you remain with your eyes open and close your eyes, it is the same. That's basically the experience of darkness meditation. Because in darkness meditation, the whole idea is that you can freely keep your eyes open. What is outside, what is inside, it's just the same. It's like one flow. This is where the transformation begins, when the deep meditation of darkness begins to take place. And again, in energetic terms, it's like telling the Ida part, the Ida half, now it's your time. Now I'm allowing you to be. And perhaps there will be some fear. And perhaps there will be some anxiety. And perhaps there will be some challenge, because, as we said, at our instinctive level, we reject that. But perhaps there will also be an immediate recognition. And that's the amazing thing. Because when such a recognition takes place, it is because our true being recognizes itself in the easiest way, most direct way, through this visible darkness. When you are immersed in an ocean of darkness, it's like you don't see an edge, you don't see a world, you don't have anything to grasp, not even yourself. And that's, if you are beginning to allow your true being, not the fear, to recognize what is going on, it's like swimming in an ocean of yourself, swimming in an ocean of bliss. And then when the Ida part is activated, you realize that you feel most at home in darkness. Why is that? Obviously, there are the immediate things that take place. If there is darkness, there is no time. You are immediately cut off from time. You don't need to go through complicated meditation to disconnect from whatever makes you be in the stream of time. Darkness is timeless. Because it is light that gives life, that creates, that is really associated with movement, with action, with cause and effect. In darkness also there is no purpose, there is no direction. It's like you're not moving from here to there, you're just drowned in an ocean of being. Yet there is nowhere to go, right? There is nothing to do. It's the beginning of being. But it's even more than that. In such darkness, you do not exist. You're not there. If you cannot see your body, you suddenly cannot be recognized. You're not as someone. You're not distinguishable. You don't have clear outlines that distinguish you from space. What an easy way it is to allow the mystery, the beingness of our consciousness to just pour out, by letting darkness pour in. Now, to be sure, the idea is not that we should live in darkness or something like that. It's not a healthy life. We all know that light is healthy, and because light is life, it gives us life. It nourishes us with it energizes us. But darkness is actually where life begins. You see, our biggest problem is that we think of light and darkness as opposites. This is what I said just before. We think Ida and Pingala, they are two complementary halves, but they are also opposites. And that's basically our biggest problem, because if I think that meditation and life are two different states, that's exactly what's going to keep me stuck for a long time on the spiritual journey. Not knowing ever how to blend total relaxation and action. That's the $1,000,000 question of any process of self-development. So that's the biggest confusion. We think these are two different aspects. They oppose each other. They don't meet. That is why we say light at the end of the tunnel, you see? Or we say, I don't know if you are acquainted with this Christian term, the dark night of the soul. It has been popularized, so perhaps we all know it. So the dark night of the soul. You go through a dark night. The dark night is the absence of light, obviously, right? It's like you feel that the dark night of your suffering, the dark night of your pain has no end, and they say that you need to go through this dark night, because at the end of the dark night there is the dawn, that there is the sunrise, there is the beginning of light, and the big promise of enlightenment awaits you if you have persevered, endured the dark night of the soul. What they don't tell us is that the light that we find is not at the end of the dark night, and is not at the end of the tunnel, but it's inside them. This is what we don't understand. This is actually also, by the way, a deep understanding of the nature of suffering and pain. Because we always think, let's just, after I've completed that, it's like pain is the opposite of liberation or freedom. Then when pain ends, then happiness begins, and so on and so on. But this is not true. When you find happiness, joy, or liberation that are true, they are always at the core of the pain. You go into it, and you realize that at its core there is light. It's not outside of it. It doesn't oppose it. And this is basic in emotional transformation, in spiritual transformation, but it is also basic in terms of the relationship between darkness and light. This universe is first of all dark. That is what it is. It is darkness. Mostly darkness with some tiny bits of light sources and other objects that are illuminated by these light sources, and that's it. But they are so tiny relative to the space, to the darkness. But when we think of this darkness in the universe, we realize that this darkness is what is a container. It holds life, these objects of light, everything, right? Darkness is a container. It includes it is not a separate phenomenon. It is actually connected to what we call the source of life. The ground or the mystery from which life appears. I mean, do you ever distinguish the night? Tonight, now we are approaching nighttime. Beware of the demons. So we are approaching nighttime. Is nighttime, does it oppose the day that you went through, or the day that will come tomorrow? Or is the day ending into the night, and tomorrow morning will be starting from the darkness, from the night? Do you understand? It's obvious to us that it's circular, but it basically every day starts from nighttime and ends in nighttime, which means every waking state we experience begins in darkness, ends in darkness. Darkness is the beginning, also the end. And of course, you don't have to darken rooms for that. We need to understand this is our very being that we're talking about. It's not just it's just a darkened room that has no light in it. Is the immediate metaphor. It gives you the immediate experience, and that's why your being is released immediately into meditation there. But we are talking about something much, much more immediate, about the darkness of your being. Because that is what meditation is all about. So we need to make friends with this darkness inside, to be able to relax into it, to not fear it, and to be able to sometimes cut out any source of light and not experience it as a bad, negative thing, to accept the space within. Because if we accept the space within, we realize that it does not contradict, it includes. The whole of our being, the whole of our life. And it is the beginning, the ground from which we are going to come out to the world. We come from darkness. Can I say this sentence without our immediate conditioning being horrified, like what is this satanic person says here? Is it a new form of wacky religion? We come from darkness. When you realize that your thoughts, the thoughts that appear in your mind, are exactly the same relations between stars and sky, between space and these tiny dots that appear in the distance, and that you are the night sky, the space, and that even the most intense thought in your life is just one, perhaps sun, furious maybe, but what is it relative to all the space inside you? Do you see? Then that is such a relaxation, because you have such a sense, a healthy sense of proportion. That's meditation. When we're beginning to become one with this night sky inside of us, so if you do manage to darken a room, even momentarily, make it a fully conscious experience. Now I'm going to allow my inner being to be, to immerse in the ocean of being, to be a nobody. to return to the beginning, to the womb of all creation. And when you come out from such a room, feel how you are allowing the world to emerge from this darkness. That it has been included in it. It is not a different phenomena. Otherwise, if you again get caught in darkness versus light, now in the opposite direction, you are again lost. Remember, that's what I love so much about our two halves, about the Pingala and the Ida. They always tell us union, wholeness, only exists when these two halves begin to become one life, one being. But it is from Ida that Pingala arises, not the other way around. Osho put it nicely. He said, every light has a source, but darkness doesn't have any source. It doesn't. How can you trace back darkness to something? It's always the beginning. So let's see if there are any questions. Yes, please.
As the story goes, Buddha found the enlightenment under the tree. It was a full moon, and I'm wondering if you find that there is, in essence, in a very natural sense, some effect of meditation in night versus meditation in daytime in general, maybe the energy is different.
A very good question. Thank you. So the question is if there is any difference between meditating at nighttime and meditating during daytime, and mentioning the Buddha, who obviously went through a dark night of the soul, meditating throughout an entire night, refusing to move, and being met exactly with all these types of demons, but waking up, or so to speak, to a new day, to light. So this whole mythology is there with just one correction now, right? We are saying this light came from within the darkness, not despite, not by overcoming it. It's they say, by the way, that if you meditate long enough in the darkness, eventually light comes. This is the light of consciousness that appears, and suddenly you're not sure if some huge source of light has managed to enter your room, because suddenly there is only light, you see? And that is because deep in the darkness, the light is in its very midst. So the question is if there is a difference. And yes, the big difference is that during the night the Ida is activated, while during the day Pingala is activated, supported by so to speak the Pingala of the world, or the and although we do not have right now already a great Ida of the world during nighttime, because night is greatly disturbed by so much light, it is still the time of the Ida. And when it is so, this means that it is the time of the unconscious. And in the time of the unconscious, all kinds of energies are active. These energies are closer to what we call the dream state. And some of them can be frightening. Some of them can be wonderful, like visions, like spiritual energies, and so on and so on. But everything is released in the dark. It's like all the things that we cannot be conscious of during the day. And that sometimes appear during our dream. That is why it is a more risky meditation at nighttime. You see, because it's you are entering into the depths, but also moving through the thick layers of the unconscious. You don't know. On the other hand, you are supported by the unknowable of the universe. It's like the universe as darkness reveals itself. It is less disturbed. It belongs to silence. You are going to reveal the mystery that nobody reveals because they are in deep sleep. You are aiming to discover what is waiting inside deep sleep and while still remaining awake. So that is why meditation at nighttime is highly empowered. It is supported while it is risky. It has tremendous energies. Of course, we need then to fight with the natural tendency of the brain when it associates relaxation with falling asleep. So it's more of a battle. But it still has a greater potential that is waiting for us. When we want to imitate that during the day, then we imitate that by creating a completely dark room. You see? Then it's like we're bringing the night and deep sleep into the waking state. So you can say that during the waking state, during the day, it's a meditation that is, because it is Pingala oriented, it is connected to preparing us for activity. I meditate because I want to be enhanced, to be able to act. In the dark, at nighttime, it's not for preparation. It's really sinking into the abyss. So, that is obviously the hidden power behind Buddha's meditation. Yes. More questions, please. Yes.
What is the connection between love and darkness? Because somehow love is always associated with light.
Mm-hmm. What is the connection between love and darkness? To me, it's like asking what is the connection between meditation and life. Because basically this is the only connection. You see? Otherwise, without love, there is absolutely no connection between meditation and life. The two are just separate phenomena. It doesn't make sense when you enter meditation, deep meditation, to ever return to life. If your meditation is good, you don't feel like returning. You are relieved of your personality, of being someone, of playing the game, of being in the cruel, hard world, and the complication. Everything is so simple. Without time, without social role. Love is what makes us come back, and what should make us come back. And it's the only good reason. It's the only good drive that makes sense to live this life. It is the love that is burning in our heart as the driving force of the universe itself to come into being. So what is the connection between love and darkness? In that sense, love is the cause for the appearance of light from the dark. It is the reason. I always say we shouldn't think of love as a feeling. It is a reason. It is the why of existence. It is why I speak, why you perhaps, hopefully, listen, why we develop, why we agree at all to bear this suffering or pain or confusion of life. There is light that comes from the darkness. This light is life. It enables life, but the reason for the light to appear in the first place is love. And it's not so metaphysical. It's something that you can find in simply in your heart. It's like because what other good reason can we find? At the beginning, there was darkness. You see. And this darkness was indivisible. There was no division. There was there were no forms, no activity. And then from this darkness, there came an urge to create, and the urge to create through the power of light. And this urge is what we call love. And because this urge is so primordial, and it's connected deep inside us to meaning, to the sense for everything. Whenever we even say the word love, something is illumined inside us. It's like our heart says, "Hey, yes, I remember 15 billion years ago. That was why we all came," you see? Of course, it's not really 15 billion years ago, but just for fun, in our current science and how it describes the present mythology. Any more questions? Maybe also online.
I have something in mind. Darkness, things inside yourself that you don't know are always called darkness too. That's a different kind of darkness, I think. When you don't know something, it's in the dark.
Yes.
That's something different, I think. Huh? So when you say I'm on the path to enlightenment, I think it means a little bit to see everything that I haven't seen before inside of me, to see all, not only half of it. So I think it's a different meaning.
I think first of all we should use the term endarkenment. That would be because there are two main twists in the process of what we call enlightenment. One is the first twist is called awakening. Awakening is a sort of an illumination, but then from illumination we move to to being, to the pure being, which is even deeper, and that is what we should be calling endarkenment. That is the moving closer to the source of life. Now, as for your question, you're saying, when I say that something is hidden from me, right? Something that I don't know yet, something that I'm not aware of, or some understanding that expects me. So we're saying I'm in the dark, or this is in the dark, this is invisible to me right now. And this is exactly that, because darkness is the unmanifest. Darkness consists of two layers, sorry darkness for saying that, but darkness consists of two layers. One is the unknown, the other is the unknowable. And the two are very different. The known is all the things that we do not know yet, but that can surface to the conscious mind eventually. We can become aware of them. They are potential knowing. They are waiting in the unmanifest part of life, deep in the Ida. You see, for example, if I have a vision about my life or about others' life, or a vision for a book, it starts with some slight intuition or slight flash of understanding that comes from Ida. You see, it comes from the unknown part in me, and slowly it needs to move to the right side, to the Pingala, where I can make it conscious, understandable, organized, orderly. Many people get stuck, for example, on the part of inspiration, that is Ida part, but they don't know how to manifest, how to realize, how to bring something to an action, which is Pingala. But it all starts with the Ida, it all starts with the unknown. Now there is the part that is the unknowable. The unknowable can never be known. It's not a matter of a process. You're never going to reveal it. The unknowable is the source of life, and it's like trying to look with your eyes backwards, and then even more backwards to the seer, to the one who sees. Can you know this seer? Can you really know yourself? No. Sorry. We always, it sounds very neat on the spiritual journey to know yourself, to find out who you are and so on. I can promise you will never know. Because you cannot know. Yourself and God, or the source of life, or the source of the universe, are both unknowable because they're the same. Now what can you do? What can you do with the unknowable? You can only immerse in it. You can become one with it. You can put your mind and steep it in the unknowable. That is the deepest meditation possible. And in the unknowable, there is no more knower, because there is no more a known or an unknown. And therefore, there is completeness of being. And this is what we call enlightenment. And therefore, in enlightenment, there's absolutely no knowing part in it. It is like relaxing your mind to such a degree that it melts into this edgeless darkness or sourceless source. So you don't know, you actually, what happens is that you relax your being from the need to know, from the constant division, trying to know something, trying to realize, looking at something. It is moving back to oneness of being, where knower and known are one. Now, the thing is that it's really wonderful, and that's why they call it enlightenment, you see, because it sounds like so awesome, you see, because it's such a release, and it's like finally you see, but what do you see? That you see that the world is one, but it's not. Because you know something, but because you have stopped dividing. And it's very disappointing to the mind. I remember, because I have a strong philosophical tendency, I kept thinking to myself, okay, but what? Okay, I understand that God or the cosmos and so on, this consciousness is all there is, and that it's everywhere. There is nothing that is not that. But what is it? You see? It's like we give it the name consciousness. We can call it also Joseph or Maria or whatever we want, right? But this naming doesn't save us. And if some enlightened person tells you there is no such thing as enlightened person, if there is someone that tells you I know, you can laugh. You see? Because if you know, then you surely don't know. And if you don't know, you will never say that you know. Yes? Yeah, okay.
If we know that there is the unknowable, how can we know that this is all dark? Why can the source of light not be the whole, the unknowable? Because I don't understand when the unknowable is like the dark is embracing. I'm still in my thinking box. I can't imagine. Is the unknowable the light blended in the dark? Is it then dark or is it light? It's both, right? But how can we say it's dark and only the light has a source? Where does this idea of time come from? Okay, we do some light here, now we have time over. I don't get it.
Yes.
Don't be insulted in the name of the light. It wasn't an attack against light this evening. I think light is really cool.
I didn't mean either. No insulting. Just not understanding.
Again, please don't think of darkness as something that opposes light. It's not. It's something that actually when we talk about the deepest type of darkness, it transcends both, and it includes both, you see. From this, what we call darkness is both dark and light appear. It's not really like that. So when we say darkness is the unknowable, it means that you cannot see there. Try to imagine, sometimes to play with it. Some cosmologists, even cosmologists break their heads with it. Some conscious cosmologists, they try because they are, in cosmology you need to get in touch with the beginning of time, for example, and to imagine that they speak of the Big Bang, and then they say, okay, it was condensed mass and energy and so on, and then they think, okay, but what was before that? And then they try to, it immediately enters this paradox of because you cannot say before, because if there was no time, there is no before. And then your mind breaks. So when your mind breaks, that's what I'm talking about. It's when you are trying to get in touch with the source, with the beginning, which cannot be the beginning because it's not about time at all. Where does it all come from? Where do you come from? Where the light of your being comes from? You eventually find yourself moving into this depth of darkness. And from this depth of darkness, you can actually see how the play of life comes out, you see. It's actually from within it emerges. And this is the so-called knowing, you see. It's not much to know, by the way. But simple metaphors are always useful for this. We go to deep sleep. In deep sleep there is nothing. Then God says, let there be light. We open our eyes, the light of our consciousness washes the world, we become aware of the world, right? Even in the Old Testament, this is how the story begins. First there is darkness, then there is this statement, the ultimate sentence of manifestation. Let there be light. And light came into being. So these are only hints, of course. This cannot be explained further without us simply entering the depth of meditation. And try to be aided by the power of a darkened room. It's important to do it consciously. So 2 last questions, one here and then here, okay? Please.
It's a question from Helen.
From?
Helen?
Yes.
Does our soul live in the dark?
Does our soul
Living in the dark?
live in the dark?
Yeah. Living in the sense of living, not gone away.
Yeah, like abiding, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There is more, or you're looking, because you're looking at, okay.
No, I'm just
Okay, so does our soul live in the dark? Everything lives in the dark. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Everything. life is in the dark. We can fool ourselves really greatly, like as humans, create so much sources of light, killing the nighttime, feeling that our human-made world has taken over the cosmos. Our tiny planet is, I always say, is a floating spaceship in the midst of space. We are right now floating in space. Because we are so much attached to what we see, to objects of light and so on, and to our temporary human world, we can imagine that we have firm ground and that we live in life, you see. But we live in space. This is our life, and I know it's crazy, but what can I do? I'm stuck here just like you.
Floating in darkness.
Yes, and perhaps the only difference is that I'm constantly aware of that. I'm just aware of the fact that I live in space, and that my ground is groundless. And I don't resent that. I just enjoy it as my home. And learn how to act from it naturally. So everything is rooted in the darkness. Everything starts from it. Think of it like a soil, a deep soil. I'm using many metaphors because it calls for metaphors. Like a deep soil where the roots are deep in something that is invisible. You can call the darkness, just to make it easier for you, maybe, is just to call it the invisible. Everything starts from the invisible. Every flicker, every ripple of life, light, consciousness, whatever it is. And you can say that the soul has two faces. I hope it doesn't cause you to become crazy. It has two faces, but we are these two faces. The one part of the face is turned towards life, towards activity, towards the journey, and the other face is turned toward the invisible. This is basically what we do in meditation. We simply begin to reclaim our other face. Without it, we are actually completely confused, noisy, and contradictory, because we don't have this the other half to balance us. It's like what we're trying to do, our big project as humans, is to have only days without nights, you see? And have you ever tried that? Sometimes, sleep disorders, some, I don't know,
Very unhealthy.
Crazy times in your life, just night, day. You kill the night.
Yeah.
The body cannot survive that. So our soul cannot survive without night. Last question, please.
I have a technical question.
Technical, okay. I've never been asked a technical question in Satsang, and now I'm tremendously curious. Yes.
In this meditation dark room, what
Yes.
meditation technique do you advise?
Yes. What kind of meditation do I advise in the dark room? First of all, what I advise is before anything else, not to have any technique. only to make friends with the darkness at the beginning. Because if we immediately enter with some technique, we do not do something that is very essential. And that is to say, okay, here I am. Let's get in touch with you. Let's meet you, my other half. Naked, I'm just here. So at least a first meeting should be like that. Naked. Even if you get a bit confused or disoriented, it's okay. Then you can be very playful. You can put a satsang, for example, play it. An evening like that actually is very different when you listen to it in the darkness. You can play some music. You can use a mantra. But the most important thing is to learn to just sit with open eyes and to let this darkness pour into you, wash your being, to become one with it. To lose our boundaries, our distinctions, our outlines, to just allow ourselves to disappear. That is what I call taking a vacation from ourselves. Because we are all the time with ourselves. So that is the basic meditation, and whatever type of meditation you might do there, whether mantra or even doing yoga in the darkness, even dancing in the dark, it doesn't matter. What is important is to do it consciously, focusing on this principle, losing myself in the darkness, losing the world in the darkness.
Can we have a look later?
Of course. Not as an organized tour. But
Well, I'm a little bit curious now.
yes, you can most definitely do that. No, guys, can be the head of the tour. So may love and darkness encompass you. The darkness that includes both light and dark. Thank you so much, and good night.